Jai Hind, Brigadier Hemant Mahajan. Subject today of Facebook Live is Chinese economy, its downturn, its effect on the various wars that it is launching against India. Call it hybrid war, call it grey zone warfare, call it unrestricted warfare, call it multi-domain warfare. Because it is the Chinese economy which propels China to carry out violent activities in its neighborhood. And we have been talking about various activities in a regular manner. So in this talk today, we will carry out an analysis of what the Chinese economy is doing now, what is likely to happen in the coming days, and we will also compare it with the kind of a progress that the Indian economy is making, because that helps you to compare Chinese and the Indian economy. What we have to understand today is that the Chinese economy is definitely going in for a slowdown. The most important news is that in the second quarter of economic growth, its growth has plunged to 0.4%, which is the lowest in 2 years, and it is much below the expectations. What we have to understand is, it was earlier said that Chinese economy will grow at the rate of 1.1%. Remember, compare it with the Indian economy growth, which is between 6.5% to 7.5%, and Indian economy is the fastest growing economy in the world. However, we have to understand that as it stands today, the Chinese economy in terms of size is about 3 to 3.5 times the size of the Indian economy. So we have a long way to go to catch up with the Chinese, but the fact remains that our economy is doing very well as compared to the rest of the world, and most important, as compared to the Chinese. So is there a slowdown which is on cards in China? Is there going to be a stagflation, as they call it, that is inflation and not growing? The extent of the downfall of the Chinese economy is very surprising, because everybody was expecting it to grow much faster. Remember, the Chinese figures are always cooked up and they do not reflect the actual state on ground. But there are enough battle indications which indicate that the Chinese economy is doing badly. I'll give you 2-3 more important examples. Today, Sri Lankan crisis is very well known. Rajpaksa brothers have lost power there, and what is happening in Sri Lanka is being covered very well by the electronic media. Now, China, which had invested very heavily in Sri Lanka, why it did not bail out Sri Lanka? It could have easily done it given the kind of an economic strength that they have, but they have not done it simply because they are not in a position to do it. That is what is more important. Similarly, lot of experts are saying that Pakistani economy, and Pakistan is in doldrums, but Pakistan, despite asking help from China, has not got any help from China, simply because Chinese do not have the capacity to give help. Then also remember, China, if you have read today's newspapers, it says that Philippines Belt and Road Initiative, which China was going in for, has been completely wound down. That means there is going to be no Belt and Road Initiative. In fact, all this One Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese today, more than $5.5 trillion of investment seems to have gone down the drains, while Chinese have been able to get some land in Sri Lanka, get some airports in Pakistan, get some ports in Pakistan, etc. But the fact is, economically, they have been a disaster. That is what we need to understand. So that very clearly tells you that there are serious problems as far as Chinese economy is concerned. As far as the technical boomtown is concerned, one would remember that lot of technological companies have bombed up. There are reports from Chinese Silicon Valley, places like Shenzhen, all where they are saying that they are going in for a bust. and Chinese economic problems are only increasing. Uh, Technological problems of China have been covered earlier. How they are not doing well has been covered earlier. But also remember, while talking of technology, here very briefly I mentioned about the Chinese companies, the way they are functioning in India. One would have read in newspapers that companies like Vivo, who manufacture handset, etc., are today under the radar of the income tax of India, under the revenue intelligence, under the excise intelligence, because they have taken away lot of money from India and sent it back to China, and they are in deep trouble. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind that the Chinese technological companies in India are in deep economic mess. Now come down to another sector in China which was a booming sector, that is basically the real estate sector. Today one would know that there are 230 properties in 86 cities who have refused to pay mortgage payment to the unfinished, unsold, under construction houses. China is facing a very serious problem because the people are not able to get the mortgage. What it simply means is that today the Chinese have lost faith in their own banks, small or big. They have lost faith in the real estate companies, and there are social unrest all over China, in which there have been protests. The Chinese people have been coming on the road, etc., simply because their economic status presently is not up to the mark, and everybody is asking for a stimulus to the Chinese economy because it is sunk very rapidly. So the more important issue is, will the Chinese economy recover? I'll talk about just two things here. One, of course, is the One Belt and One Road initiative, in which their projects in Asia, Chinese projects in Africa are in deep trouble, and in fact most of the African countries are saying that they simply will not be able to pay anything as far as the Chinese loans are concerned. The Chinese houses property are falling to an all-time low, and to add to the problem, one has heard of the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus or the corona virus, but now there is a cholera infection which is spreading in China simply because of a combination of many factors, including floods, etc. So they are also being isolated, etc. Now today, if you look at the composition of Chinese economy or the Chinese GDP, the technological sector and the real estate sector contributes almost 50% to the Chinese GDP. So that very clearly tells you that these two sectors are very important as far as China is concerned. Now that these two sectors are doing very badly, what does it mean? Now today China has created a complex web of its investment all over the world. It has also created some kind of a chakravyuha as far as world economy is concerned. The world today, many countries including India, feel that they cannot live without Chinese product, and despite best attempts of the Indian government to have a balance between imports and exports with respect to China, the gap between what comes from China and what we sell to China is only increasing, meaning that we have not succeeded in our effort to decouple our economy from China, to reduce our dependence on China, and same is the case as far as rest of the world is concerned, especially America and Europe and Japan and many other bigger economies. But today the Chinese have also got caught into their own complex economic system. I'll just give you example that the Chinese people have deposited their hard-earned life saving in the Chinese bank, which gives good interest. The Chinese bank gives loan to the governments to develop land and also loans to the builders to develop property. Then people buy that property and do mortgage. However, since there's a downturn in economy, the economy slows down, the cement and steel prices go up. There are restrictions or local lockdowns to control Chinese virus, etc. So the builders cannot complete the flat in time. He cannot repay the money back to the bank. So therefore, which means that a common man has to shift to a lesser paying technological job, because you cannot pay your mortgage dues. The bank asks you for deposit. Bank cannot pay it back because the developer is not giving the money back, etc. So it's a complex thing. Money deposited in the bank, bank giving it to somebody, some other technological company or a real estate company, that in turn trying to build projects, that in turn selling it to common people, people buying it under mortgage but not able to repay. So everybody who's got caught into this complex web is not able to repay anything back, so the economy slows down. And so the crisis is so serious as far as the housing is concerned, that today a lot of Chinese are on the roads, and the banks are after the Chinese people to repay their loans back. So therefore there is a fair amount of social unrest. Nearly home buyers in 22 cities have said, sorry, we cannot pay any mortgages. So the property sector continues to bleed, the technological sector continues to bleed. So the most important issue is what will happen now. What do you forecast in the future? The fact is very, very clear that the Chinese economy is slowing down. The Chinese influence is also going down. China is very famous for carrying out what is called as a psychological warfare or influence operations or disinformation campaign, etc. Now today China is one of the most hated country in Africa, because almost every country in Africa is suffering because of the Chinese loans. China is an equally hated hated country in Asia, simply because the Belt and Road Initiative have got caught the Asian countries into a complex problem. They are not able to pay. So therefore the Asian nations, the African nations, almost anybody and everybody is angry with the Chinese, and everybody in its own way is trying to decouple from the Chinese. Now, after having given some kind of an analysis of what is happening in China, let us talk about the Indian economy. Because of lack of time, I'll focus on just about 2 or 3 important issues. Number one is inflation. We have been able to control our wholesale price inflation as well as retail price inflation quite well, though it is better than most of the countries. In fact, the Western countries, especially Europe, especially America, and even countries like China are way ahead as far as the inflation is concerned. Secondly, we have been able to manage our energy security quite well, despite the fact that the prices of fuel were increasing and the rupee is falling. As far as the foreign exchange is concerned, our Indian rupee vis-a-vis dollars has reached an all-time low. It had touched 80 rupees to a dollar. Now yesterday it again came back to 79 rupees 0.80 paisa or something like that. So what does a rupee price falling with respect to dollar mean to an Indian economy? There are advantages and there are disadvantages. The advantages are that it makes your exports more competitive. I repeat, it makes your exports more competitive because of rupee falling down. The disadvantage is your imports become more costly because you have to give more rupees for the dollars. Now today the whole world as such depends upon dollars as far as the international trade is concerned, and India is no exception. However, India has taken one very important decision, that lot of trade of ours we will carry out in the Indian rupees. That means we will bypass dollars. Dollar, since it's internationally traded, it is subject to fluctuation. Now, what is the advantage of paying in rupees, and which are the countries which will accept it? The most important country which is going to trade with us in Indian rupees is Russia. We are getting oil from them, and Russian crude oil which we are refining, and using for our country as well as for exports. So near Russian crude today is almost 30% cheaper than the other crude basket that we managed to get from the other countries. So it is really helped us to cushion our energy security, and it was a very good decision taken to start trading in rupees. Of course, trading in rupees will take some time. The system, however, is there. We have our economic banks which are already carrying out UPI transactions, etc. Another country which is going to trade with us in rupees is Iran, obviously because they are also short of dollars. In addition to that, South Asian countries like especially Bhutan and Nepal, and for that matter Sri Lanka, Maldives, etc., would want to get it into the rupees, simply because both the countries, India and these friends, will benefit because of this. So trading in rupees, going for imports and exports in rupees is a good step. However, for it to do well will take some time, but definitely a good journey. We have made a good beginning as far as trading is concerned. Inflation is under control. Energy security has been controlled quite well. In addition to this, the stock markets have been going down repeatedly because the Western countries, or called as the financial portfolio investors, or call it financial institution investors, especially of the Western world, have been withdrawing money from the Indian market. The reason, of course, is this, because the Western economies are slowing down, and they all want to get out of the Indian economy and go in for loans which are there, which the USA is offering at a much higher rate. So therefore, there is a flight of financial institutional investors out of India, and they have withdrawn large amount of money. However, the stock market is not come down too much, simply because the Indian middle class has been investing very heavily as far as the stock markets are concerned. In fact, the systematic investment plan which the middle class youth is following has been doing very well, and the losses which had occurred because of FIIs withdrawing has been made up by the Indian middle class, which is investing very heavily into the Indian stock market. Another advantage of the rupees going down is that the 3-4 crore Indians visit abroad every year. Now, because of the cost going up, the foreign travel is going to reduce. So these people who wanted to travel now will travel inside India, and therefore helping Indian economy to prosper, Indian tourism sector to prosper. And there are already reports that Ladakh has seen the highest tourist footfall, Kashmir has seen the highest tourist footfall, the Amarnath Yatra, despite the problems of weather, etc., has done very, very well in terms of footfalls. We are also talking about medical tourism, which is going to increase in the days to come, now that the problems of corona or the Chinese virus are over. So Indian tourism sector today is booming. In fact, on a Saturday, Sunday, if you want to go to any tourist place, you find that it is not at all easy. So the stoppage of travel outside the country has helped internal tourism considerably. In addition to this, what we must understand is, as far as the food security is concerned, we have managed it very well. There was some kind of a smuggling going on in wheat, because the largest growers of wheat, that is especially Ukraine and Russia, have gone out of the market. So therefore, wheat prices were increasing, and a lot of wheat and wheat flour was being smuggled out of India. Now Indian government took steps and decided that we stop exports. This helped to cool down the prices in the local market. Of course, some people, some armchair strategists tried to say, no, we should not stop. However, as far as exports are concerned, we are doing it only from government to government and not permitting through private traders, simply because we want them to be controlled. So we have managed our food security quite well. As far as the water security is concerned, the monsoons have been good, though of course some places there have been excess monsoons. but in the long run it helps the water table to go up. It helps the water to get stored into the dams. It reduces problems as far as the water security is concerned. So the gods have been kind, the monsoon gods have been kind, and our water security has been of a high order. So therefore, the Indian economy is expected to grow, because the moment rural economy does well, they get more money gets pumped into the market, and economy tends to grow. So therefore, all in all, the Indian economy is doing well. Indian economy is doing much better than the Chinese economy, and it gives us an opportunity. Now that the Chinese economy is going down the drains, it gives us an opportunity to catch up with the Chinese. So therefore, I am sure that India, in the days to come, Indian economy will prosper more jobs will be created, more youth will get jobs, etc., thereby ensuring that our economy grows much faster. I think I stop here. If you like the video, like it and try and share it with as many people as possible. Jai Hind.